the money that you want to make,
Mm-hmm.
the easiest path for that to happen
Mm-hmm.
is by being the most authentic you can be, being true to yourself, being
Mm-hmm.
true to your voice, and expressing that in through the decisions that you make in your business, letting
Mm-hmm.
yourself really dream and letting yourself have
Mm-hmm.
um, in accordance with who you really are is like the biggest gift you can give to yourself and your business and the world. Forget whatever other people
Right.
are doing and follow your dream.
Hello, mompreneurs. This is your host of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast, Angela Mashuli. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode, which I don't think you can listen to and be the same person. Because in this episode, we are going to talk about some of the ways that you are blocking receiving and making more money, the money you desire, the money you deserve in your business. And that's why we started business, right? Is to make money. And some of the principles that Jill Hope talks about in this episode, she's my guest, is really going to get to the heart of so many issues in how we run our businesses and the results that we get, and all the limiting beliefs that we have about money just really block the growth and the impact that we can have in our businesses. So we're going to learn so much in this episode, but first, I want to tell you a little bit more about Jill. Today, I am talking with Jill Hope, who is a money mindset coach for women, a writer, inspirational speaker, and founder of I Shine. After a successful 22-year corporate career, Jill made the leap into entrepreneurship to pursue her passion of empowering women to embody their authentic voice, own and express their unique gifts, and make more money doing purpose-based work that they love. In addition to Jill's coaching practice, she runs her signature program, Love Yourself Rich, which specifically guides women to rediscover, reconnect with, and embrace their authentic voice and shows them how to unleash it in their business. Jill shares inspiration and tips through her free weekly videos on her YouTube channel that help mompreneurs to shift their thinking, align with their vision, and make the money that they desire. This is Jill's second iteration of her business, having built a successful initial business coaching moms to build confidence and inner strength in their kids, and certifying facilitators to empower kids through her Prosperity I Shine inner wellness curriculum and Powerful Girl Within curriculum. Jill is just really an incredible person, and as you listen to this interview, I would like for you to take note of a few things. One, just notice how she brings a feminine energy, a nurturing energy, and the truth that is really in what she says. And is there anything more empowering for women than to understand their money and to how to shift their mindset to earn more, like what they deserve? Is there anything more empowering that you could give anybody? And listen to the end of the interview, because she talks about a mompreneur money mindset retreat that she is holding. And we are going to leave all the details for that in a link in the show notes. And get a pen and paper, because you're going to want to take a lot of notes. And I hope that This is an episode that really will empower you in how you think about money and how it impacts your earning power in your business. And if you're loving this episode, if it resonates with you, I want to invite you to please leave a review for the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, because it helps other mompreneurs and entrepreneurs find the show. And that means so much. It's completely free. And then also, while you're there, follow or subscribe to the show, which is also completely free. And then you will not miss a new episode that is published. And I'm telling you, I have a line of incredible guests who are going to continue to share their passion, their information with you. They're all master classes. The incredible experience and insight and perspective of the guests that I have the absolute pleasure to talk to. I am eternally grateful to talk to these women that have such amazing experiences. And it's like you're collapsing time to be able to hear all that they have gone through. And they're saying, look, here's what I learned, and here's what you can do to not repeat or do what I did. So you are collapsing time. So then you can turn around and implement their lessons learned, their perspective, their knowledge and experience in your business. And it is so powerful because each of them impact me and change my consciousness level. And then I wanted to say too, you cannot listen to this episode and not have a new level of consciousness. So without further ado, here is the incredibly wise and brilliant and intuitive Jill Hope. Hey, hi, Jill. Today I have Jill Hope on the podcast, and I am so excited to talk to you. I feel like these might be guised as like general questions, but I think my own issues are going to come out in them. So I'm just going to out myself on that. But so yes, you're a money mindset coach. You're a writer, an author, an inspirational speaker, and the founder of Einstein, and so much more. And we can talk about that, but I want to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Angela. I'm so excited to be here. And I didn't think I told you this, but I love the name of your podcast.
Oh,
the Good Enough Mompreneur.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because, like we often think that good enough is not good enough, and it actually is. So I love that you're naming it and claiming it.
Absolutely. And it was an accidental podcast because I have a travel business, and I was in a pod group learning how to podcast, and it was a recurring theme. Moms and women didn't feel good enough. They all had imposter syndrome, including myself, and we had degrees and experience. And like, what is this? I'm on a mission to continue to understand why this is. And I'm sure you're going to help me and my listeners shed some light on that today, because I think how we approach money and what we think about money is a huge part of imposter syndrome and what holds us back in maybe taking the next step or the next level in our business. So before we dive into all of that, tell us a little bit more about you and your business and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, as you said, I'm a money mindset coach right now, but I didn't start out that way. I actually started out as a parenting coach about 15 years ago now. And I got into that because of my own issues that I felt as a mother. I had my young son, and I kind of felt like, he was kind of very whiny, fussy, clingy all the time. And I really had a hard time adjusting. I was older when I had him, and I had been in a corporate career for, at that time, probably like 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had a hard time making the adjustment. So we were not going down a good path as mom and son and in our family. And so, but I was like so adoring of him. Like oh my God, like just loved him, as we all do, just loved him so much. And I was determined to change our course because I was not happy with where things were going. So I made some pretty dramatic changes, and like everything turned around for us. And I thought, my gosh, I've got to share this, because when we have good stuff, we want to get out there and we want to help other people. And so that's how I got into the whole entrepreneurial side of things, coming from a corporate career. But I did that I had a pretty successful business for a number of years. I had done some really cool things that I'm still very proud of. But I think it was probably around 2018-ish, I started to feel a little restless, and I sort of started to not really feel completely authentic. And I was kind of questioning what was going on for me. And I actually took I did a huge, deep personal dive, like personal work, and like really going within myself to figure out what's happening. Because actually, like, my business started tanking at the same time. So like I wasn't feeling so great. My business is tanking, and I'm like, what the heck's going on? So it was at that time, and I won't go through all the ins and outs of what I went through, but it's actually a lot of what I teach now. Is I discovered that while, you probably heard the thing, your biggest mess is your message, I think is how it goes. Well, at the time that I got into this field of parenting, that was my biggest mess at the time. But when I took a step back and I'm like, wait a minute, I have a bigger mess in my life, and it's actually been with me since I've been a child. And the mess was money. And so I realized that everything that I was like, it's never about the money. Right. That's the first thing I want everybody to know. Yeah. It's never about the money. And so I discovered some things about myself that actually led me into what I'm doing now. And I'm really excited about being on here and talking about this more, because I haven't been super public about this. A lot of the moms I coached in my parenting business sort of stayed with me for the stuff I'm now teaching. I didn't really talk about it. So I'm being more public about it now, and I'm really excited to do so.
That's awesome. And yes, I am so glad we connected to have this conversation, because like you, I feel like it is so important. And you were talking about the name of my podcast, and, I saw a quote from yours that just really stuck out, that connected it, in that, feeling confident is not a requirement to live your dream. And we don't feel good enough to even want our biggest hopes and dreams. And I think it is so often connected to how you think about money. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I love that comment or that quote too.
Yeah.
It totally reflects like my whole journey. The thing is, there's a couple thoughts around this. I mean, one is that if we allow ourselves to make decisions based on our feelings, we're never going to choose what we really want. Because the feelings I'm talking about are the feelings like we've got fears, we've got worries, we've got shame, we've got doubt. And we do allow those feelings to get in the way, and we do make decisions based on them, whether we realize it or not. And we will choose smaller, and we will choose safe, and we won't really choose what we really want. And then we wonder, well, why don't I feel fulfilled? And how come my business isn't growing? And it's like, because we're not making decisions based on the right stuff, to be honest. Right. And so we kind of have to get away from this, like, I need to feel really confident before I can step into XYZ, because no, you do not. You need to step into it, and then your confidence will grow from there.
Yep. Yes, absolutely. And, podcasting has been a part of that for me. Like, I didn't feel good enough to be a podcaster, whatever that is. Somebody who, because, it's not that difficult to podcast once you know how to do it, but it has helped me gain the traction and the confidence that in my businesses. So let's talk about what are those things that we are focusing on that are holding us back in our business. What are some of those things that you think really is the biggest problems in our mindset about money?
Yeah. Well, it really starts from, I said a little bit ago that it's never really about the money.
Right.
And so one of the big discoveries I made, and this was like when I first came upon this, I'm like, oh, it can't be. It can't be. But it really, really is. And this is why the name of your podcast, I'm going to draw these things together because this is why the name of your podcast speaks so much to me, because we don't feel good enough. And the reason why we don't feel good enough is because we aren't listening to our own true voice. We aren't actually being our true selves so often, because we have a lot of shame. We have, we've got conditioning that has been with us since we were little children, saying that, we're not good enough here, we're not good enough there. Or, we might have, I came from a background where my parents were very supportive and extremely loving. I was pretty lucky. And yet I came away developing my own, like I made my own decisions about what I wasn't good enough at. Right. And so, and it's because I wasn't really owning myself. I wasn't really listening to that really quiet voice inside. We don't feel good enough when we're trying to do what we think we're supposed to do. It's probably not what you're supposed to be doing. We need to do what we really want to do. So, where do moms go wrong? Where do they get themselves into trouble when they're trying to build a business and the money's just not flowing? One of the biggest reasons I see is that, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, but we don't shoot big enough. I see so many of the women that I work with, they'll make a goal and it's not really a goal that super lights them up. Like it's like they're excited about it, but boy, in their silent thoughts, there's really something bigger they want. But they go for the thing that they think they can do. And what really is getting in the way there is that if they don't know how to do something, and like, I'm so guilty of this. If I don't know how, I'm not going to necessarily, go out there and say, that's what I'm going to do. Like right now, I don't know how to make $1 million. Why? Because I haven't made $1 million in my business yet. So I will honestly say, like, I don't know how to do it. And so that could keep me from going out there and saying, that's what I want to do. And if I were willing to say, I want to make $1 million, I'm going to be attracting different types of opportunities than if I say, well, I just want to make $300,000 or, whatever I might come up with. So one of the things that will stop us from actually receiving opportunities that will allow us to make the money we want is we're not thinking big enough. We're not claiming what we really want.
And we're doing what we think other people want us to do, or we should be doing, or we're mimicking other people that we maybe perceive as successful or having what we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's so interesting. So how do we get around that? What are some things that we can start doing to get around those blind spots? Or, are there other blind spots that we also have?
There are. There are a lot of blind spots. There are some that I see are very commonly showing up for a lot of women. And I can talk through some of those right now if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So one of them is it's kind of what I was just talking about, but it's not fully owning our desires. Okay. It's not really giving ourselves permission to have what we want, basically. And that's what you hear a lot of people say that. But when I work with a woman, she here's an example. I've been working with a client for years, right? And there's been something that she brings up periodically, I would say like every 6 months or so. And I'll say, you've been talking about this for a long time, but you haven't actually taken any steps towards doing that. And, and she's got a lot of fears around it. And there's shame and there's guilt and there's all this stuff. So one of the things we need to do is listen to our voice of desire, because and actually when I just went to Florida, that was me listening to my voice of desire when I went and stayed there for a month. And since I've done that, so many things have opened up for me. It's been absolutely crazy. And I could never have seen it had I not listened to that voice and said yes to it. And it was not an easy path to get my husband to go along with this. And there was a lot of logistical hoops we had to go through to make that happen. So that's the first mistake, not listening to your voice of desire and owning what you really, really want. Another big mistake that women make is we censor ourselves. Like we totally censor what we water down what we really want to say. We're not really, like, we try to walk the middle line a lot of times because that feels safe. And this comes from, I mean, this really is a woman and mom type tendency, because we are conditioned that we nurture other people, that it's, you know, we do everything for everyone else. A lot of us are people pleasers. We want to make people feel good. We want people to be happy.
Yes.
Right?
I saw a mom last week apologize in the grocery store because her child was chatting with the person in front of them. And I was like, what? Yes, not to interrupt you, but it was like a classic example of how we just like don't even realize. I mean, her baby was so friendly and cute, and here she is. I'm so sorry my baby's bothering you, and just talking like it should be doing. And it was so cute. But yes.
Well, and you know, the sad thing is, like, that's a perfect example of how we pick up, you know, from our own conditioning. That baby, whether the baby actually can, you know, really understands what the mom just said, it doesn't matter. There was a tone that the mom, you know, in which she said that the baby picks up and interprets its own, you know, ideas of what that means about him or her. So
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. So we're, you know, so we second guess, we doubt, we don't. And so, and I was so guilty of this for so long. It would take me ages to get it. Like, I write all the time. I send a lot of articles out to my community, and I love doing it, but I used to just agonize over every word and change sentences, and because I really didn't want to ruffle any feathers. And now I'm like, when the download comes, I just pump it out. And I get more emails now, people like thanking me for pointing stuff out.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's so interesting. And, you know, yes, it does mean we might get some emails from people that didn't like it or that it like offended them. But, you know, you're not here to please everybody. We need to realize that. And so censoring is another big mistake that a lot of women and mompreneurs do make. Another mistake is needing to control the how. I mentioned this before too. If we don't know, like, when you start to move in a direction, right? You've got a goal, you start going down that path, you're doing all the things that you know you should be doing to maybe hit this money goal, and something shows up and it looks like, oh my God, it's not going to happen. Not enough people are signing up for my webinar or whatever it may be. Is we can go into like a mini meltdown because we think it's not happening. And what we really need to be doing, and then we'll like change course, right? But what we really need to be doing is, in that moment, doubling down on our vision and staying the course and remembering truth. And here's the truth. The truth is that it is not, and I know we've heard this before, but you really got to notice in your own life, where are you not following this truth in your life? And here's the truth. The truth is that it's your job to decide what you want. 100%. Like, decide on your vision, choose your goals, and own that, right? That's like the owning the desires part. What's not your job is how that's going to actually happen. So this throws a lot of people off. This is where we see people stopping, you know, before the gold, you know, stopping at the 11th hour. This is where we see people like, I mean, I almost quit my business multiple times until I had to, you know, get the reframe on the truth, which is it's not up to me how this is going to pan out. I just need to be connected to my vision. So what we need to do instead is we need to remind ourselves that, wait a minute, it's not up to me how. Whatever's showing up is showing up to help me see like where I need to get stronger, where I need to grow. You know, for me, what it's looked like, and maybe some of the listeners can relate to this, when it looks like, oh, I don't have enough people signing up, or oh, then that means I'm probably not going to make my money goal this month, or whatever it is. And we settle for that. We're like, oh, darn it. Like, okay, you know, I'm missing my goal this month. No, no. What we want to be doing instead is saying, I set a goal. I am determined to meet this goal. So what else can I do? And not stopping. The stopping because it doesn't look like it's happening is where we don't make the money. You don't get to have the money if you don't keep going until it comes in. So that's a biggie, needing to control the how.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
I can definitely identify with all of those. Because we definitely try to control things. And, you know, I think when you're someone like me who came from an underprivileged background, you're kind of conditioned not to want more, or you have, you know, these negative thoughts about people who have more. So those are obvious limiting beliefs about money, but a lot of people don't even realize that they have them. So what are some of the ways that we can start to assess some of those ideas that we have about money that are holding us back, and then working towards changing that? Because until you change that story, if you want to make that $1 million sale, you have to be in a position to work with somebody who's able to make that sale, and you have to mirror that, right? So how do we start making movement towards that?
Yeah. Well, it is important to know what, you know, because we do have these blind spots, and the blind spots are usually the limiting beliefs.
Right.
And how do you change a limiting belief if you don't even know you have one?
Yeah.
You know, and one of the, right. And one of the things to keep in mind is that the results that you have in your business are the result of doing certain things. And the result of doing certain things, the reason you do certain things is because you believe certain things. So if you don't like the results that are showing up for you, then you need to look at the things that you're doing, because something needs to change. And you're probably doing those things, as I said, because you believe certain things. So you think that's what you need to do. So how do you know what to change? Well, when it just comes to money beliefs, one of my, like, the first place to start, and this is where I started with myself, and this is like when I work with a person, I can hear the money beliefs come up when they just talk about their situation. Like I can see it, because I can hear it in the conversation. I can hear it in the things they say about the situation. I hear it in the story that they're telling me, because it's all a story, right? And so I'll hear it in the story. So I can easily pick out when I have a conversation with someone what their limiting beliefs are. But if you're not, you know, if we're not sitting in a room having this conversation, how can you do that? Just get out a piece of paper and just ask yourself, what do I believe to be true about money? And just start writing every single thing. It can be positive things and negative things. Everything you believe to be true about money, you want to get that down. That's kind of like when you're a child and you're in your bed and you see something in the closet, like a dark figure, and it's scary because the lights are off.
Right.
And you turn on the light and you see, oh, it's just a dress that's hanging kind of funny. And then it's like, okay, that's not so scary. I can change that. That's sort of what we're doing when we get it out on paper. I'm a big advocate of like writing things down so you can actually see it looking back at you and be like, oh, okay, this is what I believe. So that's the first step. And then how do you know, like, well, how do I know which of these are leading me down the wrong path, right? And how do I know which ones are supporting me? You don't actually necessarily know that on your own. So that is, but you can find that information out. I mean, I have a free money quiz that can help you see like kind of some of the issues that are going on for you, some of the tendencies that you have that may not be supporting you. It's also like people have written books about it and things. I always recommend, talking to somebody. I do free consultations with people. Like I said, I can tell you in probably 15 minutes what are some of the limiting beliefs, but you need to know what you need to see what your beliefs are first. That's the first step. Get it out. Yep.
So what I find really interesting, and I think is probably really helpful for women that you work with, is you kind of have these archetypes or certain patterns that people typically fall in. So what are some of those that you can talk about? Because I think that can help somebody kind of connect with and see themselves in a way.
Yeah. So some of the most common there are 8 archetypes that we work with, and some of the most common ones are the accumulator. I work with so many accumulator women. So what's an accumulator? An accumulator is somebody that is very, very afraid to spend money, I guess is the best way to say it. So, they don't make the investments that they should. They, even like things that are going to grow them, they feel that and this is actually a limiting belief, that if they spend any money, there no more is coming back in to replace that. Like they don't really believe that the universe is abundant. They don't believe that there's always more flowing in. They don't believe that there's more than enough money for them. So that if they have a chunk of money and they let some of that go, it's gone and more is not coming back in. So that's a very common archetype. They don't really, they're really good at saving. That actually is a gift of the archetype. Is they're very good at saving as an accumulator, but they're not good at spending when they need to. Another one that's so common, especially for mompreneurs, is the nurturer archetype. So the nurturer archetype has a real issue with boundaries. So this will be the person that will overgive in their business. They're going to be giving more time than they need to. Like, let's say maybe they have a 45-minute session with a client. They will like always go over their time. They'll go for an hour, maybe more. They won't charge enough for their services because they're always thinking of the other person. I want to make it so that it's affordable for them. And when really that's not our business, is to decide what's affordable and what's not. We need to charge what's in alignment for us and what is the value of the transformation that we're offering. But so many people don't do that. They'll charge by the hour, they'll lowball their prices, they'll discount their prices. And those are all traits of a nurturer archetype. The celebrity archetype, that's me. I happen to be a celebrity archetype. I was very shocked by that. Well, the tendency, so on the one hand, the celebrity archetype loves to splash out on big fancy purchases, right? Like it's a little showy, and it's kind of weird because I don't really feel that I'm showy, but I am attracted by beautiful things for sure. And I can covet them sometimes, but the downside of the celebrity, and this was very true for me, is that we spend to help ourselves feel better or feel good enough, right? By spending our money and having more things. And we think if I have these things, then I will be as good as other people, right? So that was a big problem for me. And it got me into massive debt, twice, massive debt that I have gotten out of, but both times. But and it was easier than I thought once I applied myself. But those are some of the traits of a celebrity. They're going to overspend to make themselves feel better when really they need to be working on their deeper self-worth issues. So, and then there's 5 other archetypes, but those are a few. And I do want to say that all of the archetypes, whichever type you are, there's no good archetype and bad archetype. They all have the empowered side that we can express, and they have the disempowered side that we express. So when a person discovers their archetype, what we do is like, we don't try to change them. We try to help them overcome their disempowered, the disempowered behaviors that they've got that are a mark of that archetype, and then to really maximize the gifts and the empowered behaviors. And when you do that, the money starts to shift. It just starts to turn around, and you feel more authentic, and you let go a lot of the beliefs of like, I'm not good with money, or things like that we sort of put on ourselves that actually aren't true. It's just that we're expressing the disempowered sides of our archetypes.
That's some really powerful stuff when you think about it, because it's becoming aware of your behavior and why you're really doing things. It's not bad to want, the Louis Vuitton purse, but why you're wanting it and how often you want it, that's what you really want to get to the heart of. Because at the end of the day, if you want it, you should be able to have that for yourself, but just make sure it's coming from the right place.
Yes. And that's why I talk a lot about, when we come back to the reconnecting with your true voice, right. There's actually 5 voices that we have within us that are speaking to us all the time. And the voice of desire is where, when you get reconnected with the voice of desire, you will understand what is a true heart and soul desire versus a desire to feel like you're keeping up with the Joneses. You really get to see what your authentic desires are, because you're absolutely right. If you want a Louis Vuitton purse for, disempowering reasons, because you feel it's making up for something that you lack within you, then that purse is not going to, it'll give you an initial boost, but it's actually not going to go very far to make you feel better for very long. And then you've got the hole in your bank account because you just dropped the $2,000 on the purse, $2,000 plus, whatever it is. So you want to make sure, but if you actually, and funnily, I did purchase, that was my first luxury handbag purchase, was a Louis Vuitton.
Right.
And I had determined that it was a heart and soul desire, true heart and soul desire. And honestly, every time I look at that purse, hold that purse, carry that purse, my vibe just goes way up and I get really inspired. And that's how you know, is when something makes you feel so good and you actually feel expansive. That is coming from your voice of desire. And that is a big yes that you want to give yourself permission to say.
I love that. Because I'm really big on how things feel, because I think talking sometimes, it's obviously helpful, but when you can really connect it with an emotion and how you feel when you take an action, I think it's important for us to have that self-awareness and get grounded with what it is that we're supposed to be doing in a world full of noise. Especially as a mompreneur, you've got all of these things coming at you. You've got your family and everything else, and you have a bunch of people telling you the right way to do things, and getting really centered on what's true and right and good for you is really tough. So I love how you connected that with how, if you want to pursue something or do something for yourself, money related, understanding how it feels when it's a good decision, I think is just invaluable. So that's great. So when we have all of these mixed messages and mind drama around money, how does that affect our kids? I mean, and that's what I think is really a good motivator for moms. If we are consistently not putting ourselves at the front, if I can connect it to like, how is this affecting your family? If you are like not feeling good enough to be motivated to make a change or start your business or whatever, how is that affecting your family? And how have you seen that kind of trickle down to families in your family? I mean, if you want to get personal on it.
I love getting personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so your kids are always watching you.
Yep.
And it not even watching you, because so when children come into this world, their senses, we have these senses too, but they're conditioned out of us as we grow, but they're very open to energy. They feel energy. And so you don't even have to say the words, and they will absorb your energy, whatever your energy is you're holding. So I'm glad you talked about how you feel, because if you're not feeling good, if you're worried about something, if you're worried about money, you're stressed, you don't even have to talk about it. You don't have to say any words. Your kids are going to pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
And if they feel constant stress from you around money, they're going to internalize that and create a story about that within them. Right. And that's going to become a belief, and it could be a positive belief or it could be a limiting belief, depending on how you feel. So like in my family, I had it was like the peaks and the valleys with the business, right? Either great, everything's, and then it's like slumping, right? And so I had a lot of that. And so there were a couple different times in the first iteration of my business where I remember sitting on the floor, just like I was tears. And I was just like, I think I'm done. Like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I just I felt so beat up. It was a big, deep valley, which I'm sure, we've felt those, right? As mompreneurs.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And my son came running up to me and he's like, Mommy, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, honey, I think I have to quit my business. And he said, Mommy, no, you've worked so hard. You can't quit. And that was a wake-up call for me, because I was like, oh my God, if he sees me quit, right? And because he knew this was my dream. So if he sees me quit, what message is that going to send to him?
Right.
So our kids do pick up the money things. And interestingly, what they typically will do is they'll go one of two ways. Either they'll adopt your money beliefs as theirs, because they absorb it, or they will do the exact opposite and kind of rebel against what you are. And as I was growing up, my dad was an accumulator. So he was always saving. He tried to get me to start this children's savings account when I was 8 years old. And I wanted nothing to do with saving. I only made 10 cents a week. I mean, this is back in the 60s, but I made 10 cents a week. I don't want to put some of that in that was a dime. I could buy a candy bar. So I didn't understand the concept of saving. And so, but he was constantly pushing it. So I rebelled and went the other way. And I got into massive debt when I was 18 years old. But boy, I bought stuff. I finally had things because my dad just wouldn't buy us anything. So that's what can happen. And if you don't clean that stuff up, had my dad, he told me not too long ago, he said, Jill, one of my biggest regrets is that I did not get more for you kids. Because my dad retired as a multimillionaire. He's like, had I known that I would get myself in this position to where I have where I'm very well off now, I would have wished I would have bought you more. But we lived like we were poor.
Wow.
And so had he cleaned up the disempowered side of his accumulator, maybe I would have started to love savings before I got into all the debt.
Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, I try to stop my daughters when they say something's expensive, and it's like, well, let's talk about the value, or, why do you think it's expensive? We talk about that and I try to help them see how they see the value of something rather than the price. But yes, I definitely think, my mom could never, she had so much self-worth issues that she definitely would do the things where she would just spend to, I think, feel better and then get herself in more of a depressive state because of that. And I would tend to kind of go the opposite. And then, I was all over the place. But I realized when I started my businesses that, you know, you really had to clean all of that stuff up, because if you want to make money and work with certain people and be intentional about who you work with and what you make, that story that you're telling yourself about money is so important. So, when we try to run our businesses and make money, we have to set goals, right? And you talked about that for a minute. So, how is it that we can be better at making those goals and not sabotaging ourselves about our money goals and our business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you say making those goals, you mean achieving them or setting them?
Yeah. Well, both. I mean, even you talked about, being in the mindset where you're allowed to dream big enough. So, okay, let's say we're in the mindset where we're even starting to make goals that are making us a little comfortable and excited, because I don't think, I don't know if a goal is big enough unless it makes you a little uncomfortable, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So how do we self-sabotage those goals related to what we think about money and ourselves? I mean, it really gets to some of our self-worth and not being good enough. I think, it all comes back to that, honestly. But
yeah. Well, look, yeah. I mean, what we do is it's all comes down to what voice are you going to listen to, right? Because we always have a voice in our head 24/7 talking to us, right? Our self-talk. And this largely that self-talk is running the show. Unless you decide to get in control. So when we're setting goals, you're setting it from the place of a deep heart and soul felt desire. That's the ideal goal, is coming from that place. It's coming from your voice of desire. That's an authentic voice. That's the voice of the true, authentic, abundant you. And there is that version of you out there. And so anything you want is coming from that you, from that place. So you want to connect with her and that voice. And so you start there. You set a goal that's a true heart and soul desire that, like you said, it lights you up, but it should also scare you. And I go a little step further and want to say that it should be a goal that you have no idea how you're going to achieve it. Right? If you set a goal and you know exactly how to achieve it, then you need to shoot bigger, because that's not a true heart and soul desire. Then just go ahead and do it. Okay. Just make that happen.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah. You should not know how you are going to achieve a goal. That's the sweet spot. Okay. And as I'm saying that, I'm I feel I've got the goosebumps all over. So this is truth from spirit. Okay. So that's the first thing. And then what happens though for many of us is we'll go there. We'll give ourselves permission to want something like that, right? And we'll say yes to it. And then we start moving forward. Okay, so I don't know how, but we always know the first or second or maybe 3 steps, right? Okay, so we'll decide to take a step, and then we'll take it, and then we'll have more awareness will open up with every step. And with every step, we expand a little bit more and a little bit more consciousness. And so we'll become aware of an opportunity, or there's something's going to show up that's going to lead us to the next step. And so as we continue to say yes to those steps, we get closer and closer. But here is where now we get into some trouble, because the further we go, we're going to get to a point at some point. Sometimes for some people, it comes sooner. Other people, it comes later. But you're going to get to a point where it is going to get really uncomfortable what the opportunity is that you need to step into. Really uncomfortable. And for many people, that is when the voices of self-sabotage start to get really loud and start to remind you that you've never done that before. If you do that, you're going to make a fool out of yourself. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to lose the love of someone you care about. Someone's going to think this about you. They're going to think you're greedy, or they're going to think that you're stupid, or they're, whatever. Right. And so we hear that voice, and it's really loud. And if we allow that voice to be louder than the voice of our truth, the voice of our, of self-acceptance, that knows that, hey, I am worthy of having this thing that I desire. If we let those loud voices get into our heads and we make a decision based on them, we will stop. At that point, we sabotage. We won't step into it. We won't say yes to that opportunity. And then you go back to square one.
Right.
So you still want the thing you want. All the work that you did to get to that point of the big, like, oh, this is really scary. We don't say yes to that and step into it. We lose ground. We have to start over. So that's one place where a lot of people sabotage, is when it's way out of their comfort zone, they won't say yes. So we have to say yes, because it's always outside of our comfort zone. It's never in the comfort zone. Or if it was, you'd have it right now. So you're going to have to do something uncomfortable. Another place where, and this is, I see so many women, this is where they get stuck, is they've stepped into the scary experience. They've said yes to it. They've done it. It's either gone okay, or maybe like they've learned some lessons from it, which that's all good. Like, our mistakes are the greatest thing ever, because it helps us grow and learn. So they go through a few of those like gates where like they say yes to the scary thing, they move forward. And then they get to a place where, and inevitably this happens for every single person, you get to a place where it still hasn't showed, like you start questioning, when is it going to show up? Like this ultimate thing. Why isn't it here yet? Like, I feel like I'm moving in the right direction. I feel like things are expanding, but it feels like something stops, or you're just not there. And so at that point, that is when a lot of people, they lose trust in themselves. Like, they don't fully trust, and they lose trust in source, God, universe, right? To actually finish the job, right? Like, because it's the job of the universe to bring it to us. So they lose, their voice of trust gets a little shaky. And then these voices of self-sabotage can come back in and stop us. And so we'll change our goal. We'll make our, we'll decide that it's okay to stay right here. Like, well, I look at all, I really increased my income a lot. So I guess this is okay, because it's good and it's more than I had before. So we get complacent and we settle, but really the dream is like 10 steps further, and we don't keep going. And then the last place where we really get in, well, there's two other places, but the voice of money, like our money stuff will, like if it hasn't come in yet, our money stuff will come in at, in the, like the 11th hour. We'll get faced with it's really like the fears around the money, whatever your specific fears are around the money, they will show up, and they will often stop us. So, the first thing is just being aware of all these places where we can sabotage.
Right.
And then what do? You just double down on the vision, and you remind yourself of the truth that you can't have a goal without the way to achieve that being here simultaneously.
Right. I mean, yeah, I can really identify with, just recently having to just remind myself of the vision, because I had done all this work to make things happen, and they showed up, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. So then it gets to the point of learning how to receive all of that goodness too, which we think, okay, I got it all great. I'm aware of my behavior and I'm being purposeful. So how is it, I know you could probably write books on this. How is it that we can begin, or what are some quick tips on how we can get better at learning how to receive? And that is especially hard for us as moms, because we're always helping everybody else, and receiving for ourselves. I mean, that's so hard.
Yeah. I think a lot of times when women struggle around receiving, it really comes down to your core wound, you know, and your sense of worthiness, like feeling good enough. It's feeling good enough, right? Feeling good enough. Am I like, why should, you know, I have this one of my clients, she's always questioning why it's okay for her to receive, because there's so many people out there that don't have as much, right? And so there's this guilt, and as if her receiving is taking from others. And so there's a fundamental, you know, issue around your own self-worth, but there's also a fundamental lack of belief in the abundance of the universe, that there's enough abundance for everybody to have as much as they want and more, always. And it's always flowing and it's never stopping. And so, you know, it's really, so to answer your question, how do we learn how to receive? It's again, it's getting the lies and the stories, the things that are not true, out of your head, and filling in its place the truth of, you know, that it's okay to receive. And, you know, I just made a video the other day on 2 signals that kind of show that you might have an issue with receiving. And one is if you've ever had the situation where people are trying to pay you money, and like, because this is happening multiple times, and it's like doesn't come through just a series of weird things, like, you know, people try to pay me in different ways, and for some reason it's not working, their credit card isn't being taken. I'm like, what's going on? It's like they have the desire to pay me and it's not getting to me. So how am I blocking this up, right? And then another scenario is if you ever don't receive a gift, like you get a gift, someone gives you a gift, but you don't use it. You put it aside, and and I realized, oh crap, I used to do that all the time. It would take me like a year to be able to start using something that someone gifted me. Yes. You do that too?
I do that too, totally. Yep. Or I'll give it to somebody else.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's oh my gosh, Angela. Perfect example, girl.
Yeah.
Of not, because here's the thing. Like, that might seem like a little thing, like, oh, you know,
I have goosebumps.
Yeah. It might seem like a little thing to not receive like a gift like that, but how you do one thing is how you do anything. So if you're not receiving a gift, or like you're re-gifting, giving to other people, thinking like, oh, I'll be nice, and I'll share, I'll be generous. You're then not receiving in other ways, probably energetically, and you're not even aware. So that is the place. For you specifically, Angela, here's my advice to you.
Seen.
Every single gift, if I was coaching you right now, I would tell you right now, every time I don't care how small the gift is, I don't care if the gift is useful or not, you gotta use the gift. Like, I had to force myself to use really useful gifts, but so it sounds silly, but I literally had to force myself to use it immediately, because if I put it on a shelf, boom, it's gone out of my memory. And so it's an energetic block that is filling up other places.
I have a gift that I haven't used in 20 years.
Oh, you know what? I do too, actually.
From my husband.
I do too. I have 2 gifts from him I haven't used. Oh,
what is it?
Okay, one is a gorgeous silk scarf, and I wear scarves. So what? And then one is a book. I haven't read it, and it's a really good book. What are yours?
Pot. I have a fondue pot. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So silly, because we love fondue, but I haven't used it. It's like a running joke, but I'll make a point of using it.
Use it in the next 7 days.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. That's your challenge.
Yeah. I know we're running short on time, and I could talk to you for hours, obviously. But I'd really love to get some insights from you on how all of this and your entrepreneurship has affected you as a mom. And so other mompreneurs who can understand how doing this work on themselves can really not only impact their lives, but the lives of everybody around them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, everything that we do, like we're modeling how to go through life. And so one of the things that, I mean, my son's learned a lot, but one of the big things that he's learned, I think, specifically from me being an entrepreneur, is how important it is to follow your passion and your purpose and your heart. Mm-hmm. Because, in my corporate job, I liked it. I was good at it, but it wasn't my heart and soul, like, purpose in life. And so that was one of the things that I was able to model for him. And he has done very well now. Like, he's very strong in knowing what he wants. Because that's like for moms, a lot of times we don't even know what we want. Right. Like, we don't ever give ourselves time to even think about it. Mm-hmm. Maybe we think about it a little, but like, we're certainly not going to step into it. So that is one thing when as we mompreneurs really give ourselves to our dreams, then we show our kids that your dreams are worth having and they're worth fighting for. So that's one thing. My son actually also wrote his college essay on things he learned through having an entrepreneurial mother, which I thought was really cool. And I was really awesome. I had no idea he was doing that. So that was really cool. I mean, he wrote multiple college essays, but that was one of them, which is really cool. He believes more in possibility, right? Because we have to be courageous. We have to build our confidence. And we have to believe in the things that we can't yet see, right? We have to believe in possibility, because as an entrepreneur, we're always creating newness. Right. And, and when depending on what happens with our money in our business, like one of the things my son has happened to him is he's very motivated to make money. He's extremely motivated to make money. I think part of that is because I struggled so much with money for so long. But, so if you're a mompreneur sitting there beating yourself up about money issues, your kids can actually learn good stuff from that. As long as you apply, I think, it takes applying ourselves to improving, but, yeah.
I love that. So, what is a piece of inspiration, a tidbit? What if anybody takes one thing away from this conversation, what do you think it would be?
Well, here's what I would want it to be and hope it would be, is really that your greatest success, your greatest, the money that you want to make, the easiest path for that to happen is by being the most authentic you can be, being true to yourself, being true to your voice, and expressing that through the decisions that you make in your business, letting yourself really dream and letting yourself have, in accordance with who you really are, is like the biggest gift you can give to yourself and your business and the world. So don't forget whatever other people are doing and follow your dream.
So it sounds like you just gave a lot of people some permission. You just handed out some permission slips.
Yes.
I love that. Yes. One for you, one for you, one for you. So you have an upcoming retreat, and then I will tell us about that, and I will include links to your quiz, and I think you mentioned you had a download. So yeah. Tell us about that.
Okay. Yeah. I got a lot of really good free stuff right now. But I also, I have this 2 day, it's 2.5 days now, actually, because 2 days just wasn't enough. So we're doing 2.5 days. It's the Mompreneur Money Breakthrough Retreat. You will come away with a money breakthrough, whatever the breakthrough for you is. So it's a very personalized experience in a way, but I guide you through a framework that will help you really connect in a much deeper way to who you really are. We talk about in a lot of detail some pitfalls that you want to avoid. So you'll be able to avoid them through what I'm teaching in this retreat. There's a lot of self-reflection that'll create a lot of deeper understandings and deeper knowings for you in the retreat. And it's a lot of fun too. So and I love teaching this. So that's coming up near the end of April.
Okay.
The Mompreneur Money Breakthrough Retreat. Yep. And then I've got my 4 secrets to skyrocket your business and bank account in 2023. And I love, like, these are not secrets that you're going to hear in other places. This came to me as a download. I wasn't even planning to write this. It's a masterclass. And it just like showed up for me. And I'm like, okay, like this is exciting. Let's do it. So that's I used to charge for it. Yeah, I was charging for it. But now it's just a free listen. So, and I wrote an ebook that goes along with that called 3 Surprising Signs That You're Ready to Up Level Now. And this is really important because these 3 signs that they show up for almost every mompreneur, at least that I've ever worked with. And the signs, usually when they show up, we use it as an excuse to stop, when actually it's a sign that no, this is like the universe saying, you go for it, like you're expanding. Right. So I share what those 3 signs are and how to respond instead. So that all comes with the 4 secrets to skyrocket your business and bank account. Yeah, and then I got the quiz, and I've got my YouTube channel. I create
yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. I create new videos twice a week. So
yay, awesome. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad we had this conversation, and I feel like I could talk to you for hours more, but I'm so glad we have some other resources and ways to connect with you. And thank you, Jill, so much. I mean, awesome. I don't know. I feel a little speechless. I'm not supposed to be speechless on the podcast.
Oh,
but I mean, this is really deep, incredible stuff that is just the foundation of so many things that we do. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience, and you really helped a lot of people today. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, Angela. And thank you so much for having me on. And it's so lovely to meet you. And thank you for doing this podcast, because this is really important work. And like, you have a big voice that is like really, connecting with people in a big way. And I think it's wonderful that you're not letting your fears stop you. And that's,
right.
how you're modeling how to grow. And I love it.
Thank you. I feel like if I denied this podcast, something would sit me up, put me in front of a microphone, and turn on the computer. It's like, I don't even feel like I could physically do that. It's just like, I have been so compelled to do it. It's like this visceral thing I can't even deny. It's really interesting, but I'm so glad I had, because I wouldn't have conversations with people like yourself, and, just send it out to the universe and hope whoever needs to hear it hears it. So thank you. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much again to Jill for being on the podcast and sharing her wisdom. You're just incredible, Jill, and thank you so much. I don't think any of us can be the same person after listening to the information and that she had to share. I really can't. So thank you so much to Jill, and I'm going to have all of the links to her resources and her retreat and how you can connect with her in the show note description. And next week, I have an incredible 2-part series. One, I am going to talk to an amazing podcaster who I asked to be on the show because I love her podcast so much. And she is just starting out on her podcast endeavor. And I really think it's important to share the perspective of mompreneurs who are just starting out. So if you are in that situation too, you have a voice that you can relate with. You can connect with somebody who is walking the same path that you are. But then, as a piggyback to that episode, I'm going to have an amazing conversation with an empowering woman who teaches women how to podcast. And we have a conversation about why it is so important that women enter the podcasting space, what it can do for you and your courage, your confidence, and what it can do for your business. So that is an amazing 2-part series that I wanted to release close together because I think it's incredibly powerful to see the perspective of a new mompreneur along with somebody who is empowering similar mompreneurs to step out into the podcasting space. So that is coming at you next week, the last week of Women's History Month. And I really just I felt compelled to put those out close together by the end of the week, next week. So I wanted to leave March with that information out in the world. So thank you so much. If you would like to connect with me, you can reach me at mombusinesscoach.com. In there you will have links to my social media and everything else. You can listen to all the podcast episodes by going to mombusinesscoach.com. You can learn more about me and connect with me. And then again, I invite you to leave a review for the podcast if you are finding this information helpful. It really helps me to know what content is resonating and what content that you like, because then I can create more of that. And then also follow the show so you do not miss an episode. And Mama, I cannot remind you enough that you are 100% good enough. Shed the perfectionism. Go for your dreams. Jill, in this interview, gave you a ton of permission. If you are on the sidelines waiting for somebody to give you permission, your permission slip has been written. Now is the time to begin to take steps to either start your business or to start leveling up. And this podcast is a place where you can continue to get that encouragement along the way. So I wanted to leave you with that. And I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you again for listening. And I'm your host, Angela Michuli of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast. Have a great week. Bye.